was very lucky and Robertson was very unlucky. I don't know if I quite believe it to that extent, but this guy, he's not that bad. I'm cool with him being in the bullpen. There's a theory of thought, or a train of thought out there, that he'd be great in the bullpen because he's great the first time through the rotation. Well, I would counter that most pitchers are good the first time through the rotation, except inexplicably Jeremy Bonderman. I'm willing to buy that and give that a shot. I think Robertson's all right in the bullpen. I'm not worried about him, honestly. Bobby C. has been good the last 2 years. I'm cool with him. Brandon Lyon didn't have a good spring. Like I said, I don't put faith in spring stats. He's been decent in the major leagues. I'm cool with that. I'm happy with Ryan Perry. He's a college guy. Didn't clean up in the Florida State League. He has electric stuff from what I hear. When I was in Atlanta the other day, I got to see him pitch. He pitched well then, for whatever that's worth. And so I'm jazzed up about Ryan Perry making the team. And Fernando Rodney, nobody likes Fernando Rodney apparently but me. This guy has been hurt. When he's healthy, I think he's a very good pitcher. I think that I'm not a big advocate or fan of the closer position in general. I like closer by committee, and hopefully Jim Leyland sticks to it. I think best guys for best situations. Unless you have Mariano Rivera or Eric Gagne in his prime, or Jonathan Papelbon, and even with him, I prefer to see him as a starter myself. Unless you have some guy who comes in and who is lights out, it's over, I prefer closer by committee, and I think Fernando Rodney, if they're going to make him the closer primarily, is adequate for that position. He's a good pitcher. Tiger fans don't like to hear that. He is, and that's my take on it. He strikes guys out. He does walk too many. He also misses bats, and his problems generally tend to come when he loses velocity. That could be a problem. Hopefully he doesn't lose it this year, but if he's fully healthy, we're going to get a good year out of him. I like this bullpen. There's a lot of shaking. There's a lot of people who are worried about it. I'm not. I am worried about the rotation a little bit. I like the bullpen. I think Dombrowski's done a good job with it. Plus, you have guys like Cody Satterwhite, Brett Jacobson. They're going to be in the minor leagues this year. College guys who were drafted last year. I think Satterwhite in actual performance did better than Perry last year. He just doesn't have the pedigree. He wasn't a first-round pick. I'm not worried about the Tigers' bullpen. These guys can fill in later in the year, and I'm not counting on Joel Zumaya for anything, but he is out there. And if he comes back from his injury, he's someone who can come in later in the year. So the Tigers have options for the bullpen later in the year. I like their bullpen going in. We're good there. It's the starting pitching that is really full of question marks. Jeremy Bonderman is absolutely a necessity. We need to have him. Verlander's a question mark. I feel positive on him. Jackson, question mark. I feel average. Galarraga, question mark, average. Minor will likely go to rotation. He's adequate. Porcello, average. Okay, I ran out of room on my memory card, so I had to switch it out. But where I left off, starting pitching, maybe I'm just being a biased Tiger fan, thinking the best of all of these guys. They're going to need a standout performance. For the most part, that's where the worry should be. I'm okay with the bullpen. Moving on to hitting and basically the offense. They've taken a lot out of the offense this year from last year, but really they had a lot of big names and non-performance as compared to previous years, or as compared to this year, previous years. Yeah, last year they had Ivan Rodriguez and Gary Sheffield. I think Gerald Laird and any combination of Marcus Thames and Jeff Larish and to a lesser extent, much lesser extent, Josh Anderson can do what Gary Sheffield did last year and Ivan Rodriguez. Those two guys, big names, low output. I'm not convinced Gary Sheffield was going to have low output this year. I guess the Mets and their fans will figure that one out for themselves, but last year he didn't. So I think the guys they have can at least equal that. And last year's team offensively did enough to win the division. It was the pitching that let them down last year, not the offense. The offense was inconsistent, but overall it performed above average. I believe they were fourth in runs scored. So, I mean, you have Curtis Granderson. I'm actually expecting an even better year from him than last year or the year before, both of which were great. He's going to be healthy from the beginning of the year. He's in his prime years. This guy is probably going to have an all-star caliber year. Whether or not he makes the all-star team is highly dependent on how well the Detroit Tigers do. I don't think he's the biggest fan favorite, so he'll probably not get voted in no matter what he does. And an all-star game's a highly political thing, so I don't know if he's the popular choice, and therefore, even among coaches, therefore I don't know if he'll make the team. If I'm not mistaken, even Milton Bradley got excluded last year, and at the time the All-Star game took place, he was the second best outfielder in the league. So whether or not he actually makes the team is a separate discussion, but he will have an all-star caliber season, I'm confident of. Placido Polanco, he's an interesting player. I think regarding him, he's fascinating because the national baseball machine, media machine, I think really underrates this guy. He's one of the best overall second basemen in the league. Offensively and defensively. He brings both to the table in spades. This guy's really good. Conversely, I think Tigers Nation, Tiger fans, Tiger media overrates him. One of my least favorite Tiger-related myths, it really grinds my gears, is the one that says Polanco getting hurt is what caused the 2006 Tigers to not do well. They tanked because he got hurt. Well, they actually started losing a little bit before that. They were going into the tank when he was still healthy, and quite frankly, his worst season as a Tiger was 2006. Omar Infante was a better second baseman for the Tigers that year than Placido Polanco. I think time would have borne that out had they not felt the need to trade for Nefi Perez instead. Polanco was not very good for the 2006 Tigers. Now, he was very good in the playoffs that year. He also was very good for the 2005 Tigers after being acquired, the 2007 Tigers, and the 2008 Tigers. So, I mean, this guy's really good. Not Hall of Fame caliber, but really good. I am worried about him. He's getting to be 33 this year. He's had nagging back problems. His back was the reason primarily that he didn't do well in 2006, and he was having back problems last year too, and started off atrociously. When his back got healthy, he started performing well again. By that time, the Tigers were out of it too little too late. Going into 33, that's not exceptionally old, but it's getting older. And for a guy who had back problems when he was in his late 20s and had back problems last year at 32, that's a significant concern. He's a free agent after the season. I think I'm in the minority in thinking that the Tigers probably should not re-sign him unless he's willing to negotiate on their terms. Definitely no big contracts, a lot of option years, injury-based things, because I do think the Tigers signed him to an exceptional deal when they extended him after acquiring him from the Phillies. It was an outstanding contract. He's performed admirably throughout the contract, even if he's poor this year. It's been a win-win on both sides, but sometimes goodwill can cause you to do things that aren't very smart, and I think the Tigers extending him for a really long time after this, either adding to his current contract or negotiating with him as a free agent after the year, would be a mistake. If he wants to sign a one-year deal with an option, something along those lines, I'd be okay with that. Really, a lot of my feeling on it depends on what he does this year, because I